Panchakalpa Vishwa, Kripasan Vishwa, Patnam Bhavani Vyo, Vasan Vyo, Namo. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasankar Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthana Bhutala Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pachami Nirvishesha Sundara Upaspachari Asatari. We are continuing with the section on Sankhya, analysis of the difference between matter and spirit, that text 22. Nainam Shinanti Sastrani, Nainam Dati Pavaka, Natshinam Plidyantiapo, Nasasati, Man Marutaha. No, it's that's text 23, but it's text 22 first. Vasamshishis Nani Chatavyaya, Navan Hinati Narupam. Tatasayani Vihayasyanani Ayani Samyati Navanti. As a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of the soul have to accept continuous changes of the body, which appear from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. Little further. Transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the super soul. So who organizes that the soul goes from one body to another? It's a super soul. And how does the super soul do that? Chapter 15. Verse 8 and following. Because chapter 2 is a summary, therefore we go to always later to other references. Sariram yata bapnoti yashapu karma tishvaram vitvanana samyati vayogandani vasayat. The living entity in the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus it takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. This is Krishna speaking. So Krishna brings us to another body. What is his criteria? Our different conceptions of life, especially at the moment of the death, of death. Yam yam vapaswambam tyam tyanti kalebram tam tam avete kantyam buddhamat bhava. Yeah. And then, yeah. Yam yam vapaswambam. But Tayanta ante kalibram, what you remember at the end of the body. Yeah. That yam yam smavram tayanta ante kalibram, tam tam aveta. Yeah. That state of consciousness you will attain again. You will get another body based on that consciousness at the end of life. And that's the consciousness at the end of life is the accumulation of the consciousness you have cultivated during one's lifetime. And Krishna knows exactly. And he brings you to the next body. That if you live like cats and dogs, you get bodies like cats and dogs. It's, yeah. But this under the direction of the super soul. Because the soul and the super soul are like two birds sitting in the same tree. And Prabhupada always refers to the same verses of the Mundaka Upanishads and the Svetasvatara Upanishad. Samane vrikshe purusho nimakno nisaya suchati muyamana. Shustam yatapasthyayamishamasya aitanam iti vitasokam. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness and the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. As the enjoyer of, so that's us. We are eating the fruits of the tree. Fruit is the body, the senses, and the enjoyment. But in some way or another, he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories to Krishna is in your heart. Mm-hmm. It's quite simple. If you speak with materialists, you say God is in your heart. Then you ask him, who controls your heartbeat? Who controls your digestion? Who controls that your body gets older? Why does it get older? Under what laws does it happen? These are just a few examples. They cannot explain. And what they cannot explain, that's God, that's the super soul. That they may think of it's what they want, but that's God. So they cannot deny these things. They think they are controlling, but no. The intelligence that controls that is the super soul. And it's only an aspect of the super soul. So Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the body change of his old grandfather and his teacher. So Krishna is saying, yeah, you cannot kill your grandfather. He's the soul. If you destroy his body, he will get another body and a better body, a new body, because he has now an old body. So that is a reason to be joyful, not to lament. But it does not mean that we can start killing old men. No, that is condemned. This is an extraordinary situation. Krishna is ordering. He's part of the police force. That's the point. 23. So 22, the essence here. The change of the body by the atomic soul is made possible by the grace of the super soul. The soul and the super soul are compared to two birds sitting in the same tree of the material body. Although they are friends, one is the master and the other is servant. When the soul forgets his relationship with the super soul, he struggles very hard on the tree of the material body. But as soon as he turns his face to his friends and surrenders to him for instructions, he becomes free from all anxieties. So that's surrender. That we should come to the conclusion as Arjuna, I'm perplexed, I don't see it anymore. You, Krishna, you direct us. I take shelter of you. That's the point. Turn again to the bird in our heart. That two birds. Krishna is always with us. That like Hiranyakashipu, when Hiranyaksha was killed, he was searching for Vishnu all over the universe and could not find him. But he was in his own heart. There he was. But he was searching externally everywhere in the universe, and he was in his heart. 23. Nainam Shindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Bhavaka, Natshenam Klidyantiapo, Nashasashanti Maruta. Soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, or burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you have all these weapons in your chariot that you got from the demigods. You have water weapons, fire weapons, that wind weapons. But with none of these weapons, you can kill the soul. That the Mayavadis, they cannot explain how the soul became covered by the illusory energy. Is in the purport. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual soul from the original supreme soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the supreme soul. Because they are atomic individual souls eternally, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy. Thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as sparks of fire. Although, when in quality with fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of fire. So we can. The living entity remains separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord. Yes. Okay. Here, this is an important point that there is the spiritual is called marginal and energy because we are a very tiny spiritual spark. And by that, we must be under the control of energy, Krishna's energy. Because we are marginal, we can either connect with the spiritual energy or with the material energy. How do we connect as a soul with the material energy? You all know very, very well, because you are doing it for since so many births. How do you do it? Yeah? By identification with the material body, but that identification has a mechanism. That how does this mechanism start? the soul desires. And the soul desires to enjoy separately from Krishna. And when it desires to enjoy separately from Krishna, Krishna gives him a body to do that. And that's what's happening. It's our desire. With our desire, we are contacting either with the material or with the spiritual energy. We will learn that in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the material world is compared there to a big banyan tree upside down. Its roots are up. And this banyan tree is nourished by desire, the desire of the living entity to enjoy separately from Krishna. So by the desire to enjoy the material energy, we contact with the material energy and identify with the body. And with the desire to serve Krishna out of love, we contact the spiritual energy. And we identify with the spiritual body, with the spirit soul. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah? And that is very important. That is what is explained here. That if this is explained in Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, 9:13, Mahatmanas tumam partam devim pragati ashvita. The Mahatmas, the great soul, they take shelter of the spiritual energy. And how do they do that? In the next verse is Satatam kirtayantamam yatanta satritapatam. They always do kirtan, chant Krishna's names, chant Krishna's glories. And by that they contact the spiritual energy. That's the Mahatma. Good. 23. So this is the two birds in the tree. We explain. Two birds are in the same tree. The eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness for the joy of the tree, but in some way, if in some way he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Yes. This 23 that we are discussing now, that by not, all these weapons that, and here different weapons are also mentioned in the purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, previously, weapons were of various types, which are now unknown to modern science. But no weapon, whether it be sword, flame, water, or tornado, can kill the soul. So the Mayavadis cannot explain how the soul became covered by the illusory energy, nor what is possible to cut the individual souls from the Supreme Soul. So how did we come in contact with the material energy? Who can explain? How did we come in contact with the material energy?
Material desires.
Material desires.
To enjoy independently of the Lord.
The desire to enjoy independently of the Lord. That this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter. 13th chapter. Yeah. Text 13:22. Purusa prakati stohi bhukte prakati jan gunam karanam gunasangasa satasatjan mit janmasu. Purusa, the living entity. Prakatisto, he became engaged in the material energy. Why? Bhukte Pratijan Gunam. Because he Bhakti means enjoys. He tries to enjoy what is produced by material nature. And by that guna sangha, karanam guna sangha, by that association with material nature, by his desire, the living entity, asat yoni janmasya, is born in different species of plant. So Krishna tells us why. What's in the purport of Srila Prabhupada is also in Bhagavad Gita somewhere. Prabhupada just repeats that. Yeah.
To the text. It is Karanam. Karanam Guna Sangvasya. So, what is the cause here?
Karanam
The cause of
Karanam Guna Sangasya.
What is the cause?
Of what?
Huh?
What is the cause of what?
Of Guna Sangvasya.
The cause is Bhakti Pratijan Gunam.
So
Bhakti Pratijan Gunam. Bhakti Pratijan Gunam. That's the cause. We try to enjoy material nature. Bhakti is enjoying. And what Bhakti, what do we try to enjoy? Prakriti, material nature. The gunas. Prakriti guna. That is our problem. Bhakti Prakriti Janam. Then Satasat Jomisu. Then you take birth in different species of life, because that's what you do. Good. Text 24. Achedyamadayama Aklet Yoshosha Sanitya Savagata Stanu Achalyam Sanatana. The individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burnt nor dried. It is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So the individual soul is eternally an atomic particle of the spirit whole, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. After liberation from material contamination, what is liberation?
Being free of the demons. Being free of the demons.
Just repeat what I said. After liberation from material contamination, liberation is getting free from material contamination. Okay? Yeah?
it is a karma,
That's all. It's completely different. That is how we purify our heart. But liberation in the 11th, in the second canto, text, chapter 10, text 6. There is liberation in the Bible described. I get it here. 2, 10, 6. Is the second line. Muktir itvanyatarupam svarupena vyavastiti. Liberation is the permanent situation of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. That's how do we give up these bodies? Yeah. How do we give up these bodies?
So when we're free without gunas.
Please listen. How do we give up these bodies? How do we attain liberation? Yeah.
By getting free of material contamination.
Yeah, by getting free of material contamination. That And where is this material contamination situated? We are not a body. We are not a mind. Where is it situated? What is contaminated?
The consciousness.
Consciousness. Consciousness comes from the soul. So we have to become free from the contamination. That and what is this contamination? Bhakti pragati jnana. Bhakti pragati jnana. Again, the same thing. We are trying to, we have the desire to enjoy material nature. That as long as the desire is there, we get new bodies. The subtle body will create a new gross body. So the individual soul is eternally an atomic particle of the spirit whole. It can never become homogeneously. Can never merge with something. You cannot cut it to pieces. It's not possible. Krishna says clearly, so merging with Brahman is not possible. You can be situated in Brahman, but you still have your individuality. Your individuality is still there. So after liberation from material contamination, the soul remains a spiritual spark in the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, or goes to the spiritual planets to associate with him. So this is this permanent situation of the soul, which is described here. It's going back to the spiritual world. And then the words at the end of the purport. Living entities are also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. The sun globe is if the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. It's interesting. Prabhupada writes here. We believe only what we can see and experience in this world. And the rest we think is fantasy. But there are so many living entities, even on this earth, we cannot see. So-called spirits and so on. They are there. We see, what we see is very limited. We see in the scale between ultraviolet and infrared. And we can hear from the subsonic to the limit where the supersonic starts. Then we cannot hear. Does that mean there is no sound? No, there is sound. And that sound is there. We cannot see. So sarvagata, living entities with fire bodies. Interesting. We think, expo planets. There we can live. The scientists are looking to expo planets with the same atmosphere, and then biological life can develop. But that biological life is not the only kind of life, according to the Vedas. There are other life forms we cannot perceive with our senses, with our mind. So sarvagata, living everywhere. Then 25. So avyaktoyam asintyayam avikaryoyam uchate tasmat evam vidit vainam It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. That in the purport, no one can establish its existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. There are many things we have to accept solely on the ground of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of the father based on the authority of the mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except the studying of the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness, and consciousness, that is also the statement of the Vedas. The soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. Science will never be able to prove the existence of the soul, because they have only experimental knowledge, which is 4 defects we learned in the beginning of Shiyas Upanishad. That the knowledge from Krishna is perfect. 26. So Krishna takes now another position. Atashnam nitya chatam nityam va manyasemitam tatapi tvam abo nainam shristamarasi. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of the soul will always be born and die forever, still you have no reason to lament, O mighty aunt. So Srila Prabhupada writes, there's always a way of philosophers almost akin to the Buddhists who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. And he takes that position, Krishna. Krishna say, if you don't believe in the existence of the soul. So what is the point? We are just, in that case, we are just a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage of life, symptoms develop by interaction of physical and chemical elements. So we are just a bulk of chemicals. So who laments for the loss of a bag of chemicals? So this, at the end, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna's Mahabau, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. So Krishna spoke this verse 26 sarcastically. So they think that the symptoms, atheistic philosophers think that the life symptoms, they develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. When the body is finished, the soul is finished. That's like Professor Potovsky. Whatever Potovsky in Moscow said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, at the end of life, everything is finished. Nothing else. That's it. That everything is finished. That was his conviction. But anyway, he got mercy of Prabhupada. Must be some mercy. 5-6 years ago, I was in Lviv, in Ukraine, in the Ukraine. And a devotee was driving me to the temple that from the apartment where I was staying, he was driving. And he said to me, unbelievable what he said, but, I'm the grandson of Dr. Potovsky from became a devotee. So Prabhupada must have given some mercy there. So even if Arjuna accepts this philosophy of the non-existence of the soul, there is no need to grieve. Why should he lament for the loss of a bag of chemicals? 27. Shatasya idrivo mrityuh dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmat apariharye natvam shoshtamarasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So, the first part, every sane man should accept. One has taken his birth is sure to die. But Krishna says, one who dies will take birth. That is also sure. In the purport, the cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors of human society for keeping law and order. Further, the Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause, that's the duty of the Kshatriya. Why should he be afraid or grieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, therefore becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. So according to the cycle of birth and death, one goes to, under the law of karma, one goes to the cycle of birth and death. That therefore he must perform his duty, not lament. The Battle of Kurukshetra was an inevitable event. So Arjuna should perform his duty and fight for the right cause. If Arjuna refused, he would be neglecting his duty, and then he would become degraded and subjected to sinful reactions. So Krishna saying, because he said before, Arjuna said, sin will overcome us. And Krishna says here, if you don't fight, sin will overcome you. It's just the opposite. That's the reality. That 20, yes? If you ask questions now, we don't have question time at the end. But for me, it's all the same. Okay. 28. So, avyaktatini bhutani vyaktamathyani bharata avyaktani dhanam yeva tatraka paridevan. All created beings are unmanifested in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is for, therefore, lamentation? So in the purport, I read a few lines. Two classes of philosophers are there, one believing in the existence of the soul and the other not believing in the existence of the soul. But for both of them, there is no cause of lamentation in either case. Further, at the end, the material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. So when you dream and you get up, you think it's just a dream. So in the same way, for the soul, this so-called awake life is a dream for the self-realized soul. It's a dream that begins with birth and ends with death. And usually it's a horrible dream. That's the reality. That's the reality. It's a dream. Yeah, because soon it's over. It's all finished. Yeah, like the dream, it's also finished. It's all temporary. The dream was temporary, and the dream of the ghost body is also temporary. It's of the same quality. Therefore, it's non-existence. It exists for some time, but then it's not there anymore. That's such the non-existence. If I say to Bhakti, I give you $10 million, it's yours for a split of a second. Oh, it's past. So what will you say? What's the use of that? So for an enlightened soul, he says, yes, this life is soon over. So what's the use? Every day eating to get his body going on, and then at the end the body is say bye-bye. It's all useless. Anyway, good. 29. That's the amazing verse, the 29. 29. Yeah, amazing verse. Acharyavat pashikashate mama acharyavat vadati tateva sanya acharyavat shevanam ayashinoti shudvani mambedanav shevakachit. Some look at the soul as amazing, some describing as amazing, and some hearing of as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So you can see that. So some think, the people who understand the existence of the soul, these people are amazing. But also, the soul itself is amazing because the fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and in the microbic germ, millions and billions of which occupied an inch of space is very amazing. And those who, and it's also amazing that many, after hearing about the soul, they don't understand anything at all. And that's also amazing. Yeah. So more than 99.99999% of the population is amazing in that sense. They don't understand anything about the soul. What Krishna is explaining. That so people they have no idea, Srila Prabhupada said, that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution of the material miseries. At the end, that the easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statement that the Bhagavad Gita the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no others. So some persons have knowledge of the soul, but they misunderstand that the soul and the supersoul are one. It's called monist. It is a rare person who actually understands the position of the soul, the supersoul, and the relationship. So there are many so-called spiritualists who have this mistaken idea. That so one who is qualified by penance and sacrifice can accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita and by the mercy of the pure devotees understand the super soul. Understand the soul and the super soul. That's okay. That's 31. 30. Dehi nityam avadyoyam desavasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam surstyamarasi. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not to grieve for any living being. So the Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction about the immutable spiritual soul. And now Krishna will start to speak about the duties of a Kshatriya. And that 31. The specific duty of a Kshatriya. It instructs Arjuna, what should you do as a Kshatriya? Sarva dharmam apasavikshya navikam pitamarasi dharmyadi yudasheyonya kshatriyasya navityate. Considering your specific duty of a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so one need not to hesitate. So we have heard now this section about the eternality of the soul, and Krishna takes now a different approach. That he says, even Arjuna, you identify with the body, and you think yourself a Kshatriya, that when you fight as a Kshatriya, you will be happy. That Krishna does refers here to the Karma Kanda teachings to counteract the argument of Arjuna made before, I will not enjoy. But this is Karma Kanda. It's not spiritual now. Karma Kanda. Because this Karma Kanda is to enjoy in this material world in a pious way and go to the heavenly planets. But a little further, Krishna will say, Arjuna, give that up, this Karma Kanda, come transcendental to it. But why does he mention it now? To counteract the argument of Arjuna that there will be no happiness. But at the same time, in this verse, there are important lessons for us. Krishna says you have to do your svadharmas, your duty according to your psycho-physical nature. So we have two natures, and that is explained in the second part of the purport. There are two kinds of svadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform his duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's svadharma specific duty becomes spiritual and is not in the material concept of life. In the body concept of life, there are specific duties for Brahmins, Kshatriyas, respectively, and these duties are unavoidable. Such svadharma obtained by the Lord, this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the body plane, svadharma is called varnashram dharma, which is on the screen here. a man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the states of Varnashram Dharma, or specific duties, in terms of specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of spiritual authorities serves to elevate one to the higher states of life. So we have all a psychophysical nature. And we must engage ourselves according to that nature, mainly. That's important. What's my psychophysical nature? Is that what you are good in and what you like to do? Everyone has things that he feels attracted to, that you do for Krishna. That's important. Otherwise, you will not feel satisfied materially and not be peaceful. You will not be peaceful to practice spiritual life. So that's important. And this, if we do devotional service in this way, using our material svadharma, our material psychophysical nature in the service of Krishna, that same psychophysical nature will become purified. And when it's completely purified, you can do anything for Krishna. Prabhupada did anything for Krishna. He was opening sandals, he was cooking the feast, he was washing the pots, he was doing everything. He gave the lecture, everything. That was his psychophysical nature. His psychophysical nature was spiritualized. So you have material svadharma and spiritual svadharma. Our spiritual svadharma is serving Krishna, but that spiritual svadharma has to be executed in terms of one's material svadharma to purify it. So that's important. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action according with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to the higher status of life. Our authorities is our spiritual master, the temple authorities. They will engage you according to your nature, what you are good in. So this is because if we do our duty for Krishna according to our nature, then everyone is equal on the spiritual platform. Because you use your capabilities in the service of Krishna. And that is what Krishna says here to Arjuna. Like a Brahman, his duty is to offer sacrifice, and he has the ladle met with ghee, and he pours it swaha. He's doing his sacrifices, and that violence performed by Kshatriyas on the battlefield is as beneficial as sacrifice performed by Brahmins on the sacrificial altar. So Krishna said, you should, with your Gandiva bow, is the same as the Brahmin offering sacrifice. And so those who die on the battlefield can go to the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmins who perform sacrifice. They get the same result. It's a very important principle. That principle will explain later. And Krishna will repeat that verse twice in the Bhagavad Gita. Once at the end of the 3rd chapter and once in the 18th chapter. You should do your duty as a Kshatriya, he says to Arjuna, and do not do the duty of others. That's dangerous. That's okay. Yeah.
So it means Arjuna always will be fulfilling the duty of Kshatriya.
Yeah.
Forever. But he was
well, as long as as long as he is with Krishna, that is his duty. And it goes from universe to universe to do that same duty. But Arjuna, again, Krishna says that here to Arjuna, you must do your duty as a Kshatriya because that will purify you. But he's already a pure devotee, Arjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna that for our sakes, that we can understand. That not for Arjuna. He's already on that platform. 32. That Yatrichaya supapanam svagatvaram apavritam Sukana kshatriya partala bandayodam itrisham. O Part, happy are the Kshatriyas whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of liberation. So for a Kshatriya to be on the battlefield and become non-violent is the philosophy of fools, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus with religious principles he should rule over the world. So fighting would be for his benefit, that Arjuna's benefit. It is 32. So Krishna defeats here that argument that Krishna says, I will incur sin and go to hell. He says to the contrary, no, Arjuna, you will go to the heavenly planets. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens, and therefore we must sometimes use violence to maintain law and order. 33. Atasatvam miham dharmyam sangranam na karishyasi tatasvadharmam kirtim shahitva papam apapyasi. If however you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sin for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. That's you will incur sin, he says, in the purport of 33. But if he abandons the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name, and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing to the battle. And then I will read these verses up to 38 now. People will also always speak of your infamy, and for a respectful person, dishonor is worse than death. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scourge your ability. What could be more painful for you? O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up with determination and fight. Then 38. And that is the spirit. Now the spirit is described in which he should fight. So Krishna said, if you will not fight, you will feel you will lose your reputation. That you will incur sin. You will go to hell. That's and in 38. Sukha dukkha samakritva labha labho chaya chayo tato yudaya yutyasva naivam papam apapyasi. doubt or fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so you will never incur sin. In the purport, there is no consideration of happiness and distress, profit or loss, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to the material happiness. So you must fight, but without motivation, he said. That's just fight for the sake of fighting. Don't fight just to get victory, to get a kingdom and all these things that or failures. You may fail. Don't think that should not be your motivation. Failure of success is in the hands of the Lord. Just do your duty the best as you can. So that's very important in everything what we do. We want the best success in our devotional service. That's okay. But we do it, and finally we leave up the result to Krishna. But we do our part, our best. Because whether we will be successful or not, it's up to Krishna. Because he is the main doer on the material platform. He's doing things. And he will explain that later in the 11th chapter. In the 11th chapter, he will say, yes, that he will show how we killed already Duryodhana and Dronacharya and all these warriors. Krishna, Arjuna will see how the universal form is eating them. He's showing them that it's a horrible thing to see, but he saw it and he understood Krishna had already killed them. So Krishna had already determined what our success or failure will be. We can only be the instrument. But, yes. Right, a lot of stories to tell about this, but good. We have 7 minutes for question. Good. Yes.
I would, if possible, to start with 2 questions which concern the.
Start with one question.
Yeah. The first question is because in the question mark we have the question which will be the example.
Yeah.
And there's something not really clear to me, and it's about verse 2:7. The meaning of the phrase Dharma Samhita Chita.
Oh, okay. 2,
7.
7. The meaning of
Dharma Samhita Chita.
Dharma Samuda Shetasha. Dharma, religion. Samuda, bewildered. Cheta, in heart. Yeah. So Krishna, Arjuna is confused. Dharma is what he has to do. Samuda, Cheta, in his mind is bewildered. He does not know what to do. This is his last reason for not fighting. It's indecision. He cannot decide because he is confused. He has brought up all these arguments, but still he understands in his heart, it's my duty as a Kshatriya to fight. And this attachment to my family members is preventing that. So he's confused about his duty. And he's asking Krishna, what is best for me? You become my goal. So he's confused. In simple words, he's confused, and therefore he realizes I cannot solve my perplexities on my own. I cannot come out of this material energy on my own. I need the help of someone outside who is liberated, who can help me. And he surrenders to Krishna. So in other words, Dharma Samuda Setaha, we are all in that position. We are all Samuda Setas. We are bewildered in mind what to do. We live for the pleasure of this body. And that's a very, very bewildering situation because it doesn't give us what we want. And when one comes to that point in his life, he thinks deeper. But many have many lifetimes, need many lifetimes to come to that point. But, thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, something else? Yes. Samuda means bewildered, confused. Muda is full. Samuda, greatly foolish. And in the mind. The Sheta is the mind. Samuda Sheta. That yeah. Something else? Okay. Then we will stop now till 12:30. And then we continue. We do another section. Thank you.